Florentino Perez is swinging the axe at Real Madrid, with 10 players set to be shown the door this summer. Arne Slot is reportedly plotting a £70 million raid for a Crystal Palace superstar, while Chelsea have put Enzo Fernandez up for sale. Is the Argentine's time in London officially up? Plus, we dive into Laporta's latest wishlist as Barcelona hunt for new talent at the Camp Nou. All this and much more in today's episode. Let's try and get to 400 likes on this video, and I'll be back tomorrow with more transfer madness. Leave a like and let's dive straight in. VLAHOVIC's contract runs out in June, and Juventus, by all accounts, have quietly accepted that an extension simply isn't happening on the terms the Serbian is willing to sign. According to Gazzetta dello Sport, the club's hierarchy, with director Damian Comoli at the helm, have decided to shelve any negotiations until the end of the season, and they're not exactly hiding the fact that whatever new offer comes will be considerably leaner than his current $12 million a year. VLAHOVIC, by all indications, won't be having any of that, and both sides know it perfectly well. Officially, the pause is being blamed on injury. Yet another muscular problem has ruled the striker out for at least 3 weeks, and the club have conveniently used that as an excuse to slow everything down. But look at the timeline with a clear head. VLAHOVIC spent nearly 4 months out with an adductor issue, came back, got a run out as a substitute against Sassuolo, then immediately picked up a calf injury in the warm-up before the Genoa match, and it becomes obvious this isn't a pause at all. It's a slow, carefully managed parting of ways, and both parties are doing their very best to keep it quiet. Under the current rules, VLAHOVIC is already entitled to speak with other clubs and sign a pre-agreement for a free transfer in the summer, which means, legally speaking, he's already not entirely Juventus's player, even if he's still on their books for now. Into that picture steps Milan, a club with very specific reasons of their own to act. Max Allegri has spent the season with an attack that simply hasn't delivered what he needed. Nkunku hasn't justified the investment. Füllkrug was brought in on loan as a stopgap, and they have no intention of triggering the purchase option from West Ham. That means the Rossoneri are heading into the summer with a genuine, pressing need for a first-choice centre-forward. Not a backup, not a temporary fix, a proper number 9. VLAHOVIC fits that picture neatly. Allegri worked with him in Turin, understands his game, and knows exactly what he needs from him. Financially, it all stacks up too, provided Milan can move Nkunku on and clear the wage bill accordingly. The Serb isn't demanding anything outrageous by top club standards, and the signing-on fees involved in a free transfer make the whole deal considerably more manageable. The one variable that's genuinely difficult to calculate is VLAHOVIC himself, specifically whether he sees Milan as a genuine next step or merely a fallback after the Juventus renewal collapsed. Those are fundamentally different things, and the answer to that question will determine whether there are any real negotiations at all. Real Madrid have received a significant boost in their pursuit of Enzo Fernandez, though it's worth noting, the push hasn't come from the Spanish side. It's come from Chelsea themselves, who have apparently decided that keeping an unhappy Argentine in their squad is doing more harm than good. The whole thing started spiraling after the international break, when Enzo rather publicly let slip his admiration for the idea of life in Madrid. Chelsea swallowed that interview with considerable difficulty, and Liam Rosinia handed him a 2-match ban, more of a statement than any real punishment. Eventually, everyone sat down, shook hands, and announced that the situation had been resolved. But, as tends to happen after these sorts of meetings, the peace was fragile, and Fernandez's future at Stamford Bridge has been hanging by a thread ever since. According to Court Offside, the Blues are now open to offers. It's cold logic. The player is increasingly uncomfortable at the club, and having a top-level midfielder sulking in your dressing room is nobody's idea of a good time. Chelsea acknowledge that Fernandez is unhappy, and that shift in the club's internal mood is the key development here. They don't want to lose him, but they can't see the point in fighting him either. Enzo himself is the sort of complete midfielder who covers both phases of the game, and players like that don't come along every summer. Real Madrid needs someone who can dictate the tempo, not just make flashy interceptions or play cheeky flicks. And so you've got your classic transfer triangle. The player wants to leave, the club are willing to sell, and the buyer is genuinely interested. There's just one thing in the way. As always, the price. And it needs saying clearly, Chelsea will not let him go on the cheap. They're open to offers, but only serious ones. There's another factor that tends to get overlooked in all the noise about figures though, and that's Chelsea's ability to find a replacement. Without one, all this willingness to sell could easily turn into an endless cycle of yes, but only once we've found someone of the same caliber. And finding a complete midfielder of Enzo's level in a summer window is a job that will cost tens of millions on top of whatever comes in. So the deal hinges not just on money, but on whether Chelsea's recruitment department can pull off two major transfers at once. In sagas like this one, it's usually the side with the most patience that comes out on top. Adam Wharton, the name Real Madrid and Liverpool are apparently both saying at the same time, and that alone tells you everything you need to know about where the lad's career is heading. Last summer, every major club in Europe was queuing up for the 22-year-old Crystal Palace holding midfielder, and he still ended up staying in South London. Palace simply shut the door, and that was that. Now, the same story is starting again, only this time, the stakes are different. According to Team Talk, Liverpool are pushing hard and are determined to get ahead of Madrid, who have already made their interest in the Englishman very concrete. When two clubs of that size enter the same race, Crystal Palace can no longer just close the door. They can only name their price. And name it they have around £70 million, which would be a record sale in the club's history. Guys, don't leave without letting us know what you think. It really helps the channel out. Hit the thumbs up or down, ideally right now, and drop a comment below. We'd really appreciate it. From Liverpool's perspective, the interest makes complete sense, and it's not just about what Wharton himself brings. Arne Slot is ending the season without silverware, having spent significantly in the last summer window, and the midfield rebuild has shifted from a desire to a necessity. McAllister's future is uncertain, Curtis Jones looks to be on his way out, and in the middle of the park, there's not just a vacancy, there's a structural gap. Wharton addresses that in several ways at once. His defensive reading of the game is at a level you rarely see in someone his age. He can distribute the ball effectively, and he's comfortable in multiple central roles. Slot sees him as genuine competition for Gravenberch in the holding position, which in turn frees the Dutchman up to take on a more attacking brief. This isn't patching a hole. This is rethinking the whole structure. Geography rarely decides transfers of this magnitude, but here, it at least gives Liverpool a convenient angle. Wharton is a Blackburn lad, grew up in the northwest of England, and the club will certainly use that in their pitch. Coming home is always an easier sell than relocating to Madrid. Though, as we all know, Real have a way of putting forward arguments that make any sense of nostalgia seem rather irrelevant. £70 million for a player who's had fewer than 2 full seasons at the top level. That's a bet on potential, not on a track record. Palace understand that completely, and they've priced him accordingly. A record fee for them, but entirely realistic for the clubs involved. His contract, running until 2029, gives the South Londoners all the leverage they need in negotiations. The resolution is coming this summer. The only question is, who blinks first? Barcelona conceded in every single Champions League game this season, and that's not a statistical quirk, that's a diagnosis. The campaign is technically still alive. The La Liga title is still dangling there as the last real argument that the year wasn't entirely wasted. But inside the club, they're already looking ahead, and according to Mundo Deportivo, the summer transfer priorities have been narrowed down to 4 specific signings. The first, and apparently the most urgent, is the defense. Alessandro Bastoni from Inter has been named as the primary target, and what's interesting here isn't just the name, it's the detail. Reports suggest the defender himself is keen on the move and willing to facilitate it. The fee remains an open question, but the direction of travel is clear enough. The second priority is a striker, and this is where things get considerably less rosy. Lewandowski and Torres failed to convince in the final stretch of the season, which is a diplomatic way of saying Barcelona have been going out of tournaments because they can't finish. The dream option is Julian Alvarez, but the club themselves acknowledge that pulling off that deal would be enormously difficult. Their total budget for the entire list is reportedly 100 million, and Alvarez alone could swallow the lion's share of that. which is exactly why Alexander Sørloth from Atletico and Muriqi from Mallorca have entered the picture. Budget solutions for a position where Barcelona claim to be operating at the very highest level. The contradiction is glaring, and nobody's particularly bothering to hide it. The third front is a left winger to replace Rashford, whose loan is ending without a permanent deal. The candidates include Munoz and Virgili from La Masia and Andreas Schelderup from Benfica at somewhere between 30 and 40 million, but the most revealing option on the list is a winger from Osasuna, 40 million release clause, described as the most versatile candidate in the mix, and a Real Madrid buyback clause, meaning Barcelona would invest 40 million in a player their biggest rivals can reclaim whenever it suits them. That's not a transfer strategy, that's charity with a badge on it. And finally, Cancelo. The veteran Portuguese fullback has earned an extension, and the club are openly saying as much. But Al Hilal want compensation for their player. Paying money for the right to keep someone you've only had on loan, that's not market logic anymore. That's the price of attachment to a specific person at a specific moment. Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's just expensive. 4 objectives, 100 million. A wish list where ambition shares space with compromise, and every deal comes with its own hidden catch. The season isn't finished yet, but it's already clear what its legacy will be. The year that forced a serious rebuild. Real Madrid are heading into a summer overhaul on a scale the club haven't seen since Ancelotti's last major restructure. 8 players in the firing line simultaneously. The reason is fairly obvious. Knocked out of the Champions League by Bayern, hopelessly adrift of Barcelona in La Liga with the fixtures running out, when your season falls apart on 2 fronts at once, the board starts looking for answers, and Florentino Perez has never been one for sentiment when it comes to clearing the decks. Quick one. If you're a regular viewer and you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Florentino wouldn't tolerate indecision, and neither should you. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and keep your place in the starting 11 for next season. The obvious place to start is with those whose situations are resolving themselves, contracts expiring, no plans to renew. David Alaba, Dani Carvajal, Antonio Rudiger, all 3 are on their way. Though, with the German, you could certainly make an argument for keeping him on. The form, the experience, and the physical condition are all still there for another campaign. The next wave are those who simply no longer fit into Perez's plans. Raul Asensio, Fran Garcia, and Dani Ceballos will be ringing their agents and hunting for new clubs in the summer. Eduardo Camavinga joins that group. He's also been made available while Franco Mastantuono is being sent out on loan, and in a neat twist of transfer scheduling, Endrick returns from Lyon at almost exactly the same time. None of this is remotely surprising. This list has been building for a while, and you could comfortably add another couple of names to it. The most glaring problem area is, of course, the defense, and losing 3 backline players at once suggests Perez can see it just as clearly as the rest of us. Madrid will bring in 1 or 2 centre-backs this summer, and if you want our honest take, perhaps it's time for someone whose passport already has a few stamps in it, rather than another promising lad fresh out of the academy. That said, Madrid have options in both categories, and they won't be going into the new season short. Alongside the squad changes, a managerial change is being prepared. The press has been beating this drum from several directions at once. Perez has already made the call to sack Alvaro Arbeloa. According to multiple sources, the objectives weren't met, and the club need an experienced head, someone who knows how to manage enormous egos in the dressing room, and God knows Madrid have never been short of those. No specific name has been confirmed, but a profile has emerged, and the press have already produced a full shortlist to match it. Jurgen Klopp, Didier Deschamps, Lionel Scaloni, Jose Mourinho, Mauricio Pochettino. The last 2 feel like they've been thrown in out of habit. Pochettino is simply not the manager. The media keep trying to make him, and Real Madrid is genuinely not at his level. Mourinho is Mourinho, and that name currently carries more baggage than it does appeal, though in terms of handling Galacticos, there are few who can match him. Deschamps, though. Now that's a far more interesting conversation. The press have been writing about his close relationship with Perez for years. His experience managing world-class players is second to none, and he wouldn't exactly look out of place in the Madrid dressing room, given how many French passports are currently in that squad. Trophies, authority, pedigree, he has the lot. This summer, he steps down from the France job, handing the reins to Zidane, and it stands to reason that a return to club management is only a matter of time. He's previously managed Monaco, Marseille, and even Juventus. He'll need to dust off certain instincts after years with a national team, naturally, but of every name on this list, his is arguably the most coherent fit, at least until someone drops Zidane's name into the equation.